Growing up in these here mountains, our family always told us that if you see something, no you didn't. If you hear something, no you didn't. The Appalachian Mountains are a land of untamed beauty, but beneath their breathtaking vistas lies something darker. Today, we're delving into 5 true Appalachian horror stories that might make you think twice about hiking alone. Our story takes us to a remote holler in Virginia, known by locals as the Dark Holler. It's a place where the sun struggles to penetrate the dense canopy, casting an almost perpetual twilight. In the 70s, a logger named Tom Bennett worked here, clearing trees for a new road. Locals warned him, "Never stay past sunset. The shadows don't like it." They say the darkness holds on to things best left undisturbed. Tom laughed it off, until one evening when he worked late. As the last rays vanished, Tom felt the air change. A sudden chill cut through the humid air. The silence was broken only by his pounding heart. He saw shadowy figures flitting between the trees. Their whispers grew louder, swirling around him. The malice in those whispers sent chills down his spine. Panicking, he ran to his truck, but the engine sputtered and died. A handprint appeared on his windshield, darker than night. Finally, the engine roared to life. He never returned to the holler, haunted by those whispering shadows. Our story takes place in Kentucky, in the heart of Appalachia, where old farmhouses stand like sentinels against time. Rachel was staying with her grandparents in their old farmhouse, a place with creaking floorboards and stories whispered in the wind. The house was isolated, miles from the nearest paved road, and the nights were unsettlingly quiet. No hum of traffic, no distant sirens, just the symphony of crickets and the rustling of leaves. One evening, Rachel saw something outside the window. A pale, young girl stared at her, unblinking. Her eyes, 2 bottomless pits reflecting the lamplight. Rachel screamed, dropping her book. Her grandparents rushed in, concerned, but the girl was gone. Her grandfather sighed. "She's been here before. She's looking for someone." His voice was barely a whisper. Rachel couldn't understand. The feeling of dread grew stronger. Rachel heard tapping on her window, like a child's game gone wrong. Faint giggles drifted from the dark corners. Desperate, she asked her grandmother who the girl was. Her grandmother hesitated, fearful. "No one knows. But everyone who sees her disappears soon after." Now we're heading to Spruce Knob, the highest peak in West Virginia, a place where the wind whispers tales of the unknown. It's a favorite spot for hikers, drawn to its challenging trails and breathtaking views, but it also hides a chilling mystery. In 2006, a group of friends set up camp near the peak, their laughter echoing through the trees. As they gathered around their fire, the flames casting dancing shadows on their faces, they heard someone walking nearby. The sound of heavy footsteps crunching on dry leaves, slow and deliberate, sent a shiver down their spines. Out of the shadows stepped a man in tattered clothing, his clothes ripped and mud-stained, as if he'd been through a struggle. He didn't say a word, just stood there at the edge of the firelight, his face hidden in the darkness. One of the friends, his voice trembling slightly, asked, "Are you lost?" The man didn't respond. He just stood there, a specter in the flickering firelight. Instead, he turned and walked back into the woods without a sound, disappearing as quickly as he'd appeared. The next morning, shaken and disturbed, they reported the encounter to a park ranger. Though they searched, no man was ever found. Chapter 4. This one hits close to home. I grew up just 30 minutes up the road from here. Roan Mountain, on the border of Tennessee and North Carolina, is known for its breathtaking beauty, but also for a heartbreaking legend. Its slopes are covered in dense forests, shrouded in an almost perpetual mist, a place where the line between reality and nightmare blurs. In 1988, a man hiking alone, his breath misting in the cold air, heard a child crying in the fog. The sound was faint at first, carried on the wind, but it grew louder, filled with a despair that chilled him to the bone. Concerned, he called out, his voice echoing through the silent trees, but no one answered. Only the crying, weaving through the mist, beckoning him forward. The crying grew louder, leading him deeper into the woods, away from the familiar path, deeper into the heart of the mountain. Finally, he came to a clearing, the fog swirling around him like a shroud. The crying seemed to stop, the silence deafening after the heart-wrenching sobs. As he turned to leave, his heart pounding in his chest, he felt a small hand grab his ankle. The touch was icy cold, sending a jolt of fear through his body. Looking down, he saw a pale, skeletal child with sunken eyes staring up at him. The child's face was gaunt, its skin stretched taut over bones, its eyes reflecting an ancient sorrow. Terrified, he stumbled back, ripping his ankle free from the child's grasp. He tripped and fell. As he turned to look again, the child had vanished without a trace. Our final story comes from New River Gorge in West Virginia, a place where the rugged beauty of nature conceals ancient secrets. In 2010, a kayaker named Ben decided to camp alone near the river, drawn to the solitude of the wilderness. As he sat by his fire that night, the flames casting flickering shadows on the trees, he heard rustling in the woods. He assumed it was an animal, a deer maybe, or a raccoon, until he heard his own voice call his name. The voice sent a shiver down his spine, for it was not his own. Not exactly. It was a twisted mimicry, a mocking echo of his own inflections. Startled, Ben turned to see a pale, humanoid figure emerge from the trees. It moved with a jerky, unnatural gait, its limbs unnaturally long, its body contorted at an impossible angle. Its face was disturbingly blank, a canvas devoid of features, yet he could feel its gaze burning into him. It mimicked his every move, like a twisted reflection, its body a mockery of human form. When Ben screamed, the creature screamed back, its voice distorted and inhuman, a sound that seemed to claw at the edges of his sanity. He didn't hesitate, didn't pack up his gear, He ran as fast as he could, leaving tent and all, and never returned to that location. The Appalachian Mountains are a place of unmatched beauty, but also of unexplainable terror. These ancient peaks hold secrets, stories whispered on the wind, tales passed down through generations, from ghostly apparitions to malevolent entities. These mountains are filled with stories that defy logic and chill the soul. Which story sent shivers down your spine? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales from the Fiend.